Greetings to one and all. I am Surabhi Jamal back again with my YouTube channel, Read Between the Lines, curated just for you. Today, let's read and discuss the poem Porus and His Elephant, a ballad written by Mary Dobson. Indeed, a legend has it that Porus was grievously wounded in the battle against Alexander the Great, and it was his elephant that saved him from certain death. The elephant itself died in the process. Come, let's read and find out more about what happened to Porus and his elephant. Porus and His Elephant, written by Mary Dobson. Let's first look at the historical perspective of this poem. The poem is composed against the backdrop of the battle fought in 326 BC between the Macedonian Greek ruler Alexander the Great and the ruler of the Paurava kingdom, King Porus. As the battle was fought on the banks of the river Jhelum, known to the Greeks as Hydaspes, the battle is also known as the Battle of the Hydaspes. The relentless fight and the valiant struggle put up by Porus and his men during the battle won him the respect of Alexander the Great, who reinstated Porus as a subordinate ruler instead of imprisoning him. The poem is in the form of a ballad, and a ballad is a poem that tells a story. It can be dramatic, funny, romantic, or even a tragedy. This poem is a tragedy as the elephant dies at the end. Again, a ballad is typically arranged in quatrains. Quatrains refers to a stanza which has 4 lines, and the rhyme scheme is normally AB, AB. Let's first read the poem. Porus and His Elephant by Mary Dobson. Hear ye a tale of the days gone by, days whose recording is short and scant. This is a tale that can never die, told of a king and his elephant. Out on the plain where the waters go, out on the banks of the Jhelum wide, Porus the king went to meet his foe, Porus the king in his battle pride. I'd once again like to talk about the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme I mentioned earlier is AB, AB. So let's look at the first stanza. By and die rhyme to one another. Scant and elephant, again. Go and foe, wide and pride. The rhyme scheme is AB, AB. In the first line, the poet says, Hear ye a tale of the days gone by. He refers to you, the reader, and she wants us to know about this particular tale, although very less documentation of the event has taken place. But she feels that this tale can never die because it's a tale of the king and his elephant, his very brave elephant who saved his life. Again, she goes ahead and says, Out on the plain where the waters go, out on the banks of the Jhelum wide. So again, she's giving us visual imagery of where the battle is taking place on the banks of the river Jhelum, where Porus the king, with all his pride, with all his conviction, without hesitating, went to meet his foe, his enemy, Alexander the Great, with his entire army. You see the occurrence of an alliteration in the third line. This is a tale that. So this, tale, that all begin with the same consonant T. This is an example of an alliteration. Moving ahead, drawn up his elephants in array, standing in state in unbroken rank, while Alexander the Great for fray led up his troops on the other bank. Fierce raged the fight, it was hard to tell what would betide, and they fought the more, till from his elephant sudden fell Porus the king, who was wounded sore. So it was a majestic sight with Porus on one side of the river Jhelum with his army and all his elephants arranged in a single line in an unbroken rank. And on the opposite end of the river Jhelum, you had Alexander the Great with his army ready for conflict, for fray is ready for conflict. The battle raged on for hours at an end, and it was definitely hard to tell who was going to be the ultimate winner because no side was willing to give up. What would betide means what would happen. They kept on fighting, and all of a sudden, the elephant saw that Porus, the king, his master, was not doing well. He was wounded and he had fallen off the elephant's bank. Let's look at the second line. Standing in state is an example of an alliteration. S standing and also in state, the same consonant sound, an example of an alliteration. Again, we have the occurrence of visual imagery where we can see the elephants in our mind's eye or the armies on both sides of the river. In addition to the alliteration in the second line, standing in state, we also have an alliteration in the third line for fray. Also, in the next stanza, fierce raged the fight. This again is an example of an alliteration. Let's read on. Then did the elephant, faithful beast, for his defence played a gallant part, standing above him lest ere the least harm should assail him from blow or dart. Trumpeting loudly, he held at bay foreman with arrow or spear or sword, challenged them all to approach their prey, dared them to injure his wounded lord. It is at this point that we realize that the elephant is indeed a faithful creature because he does not run away from the scene. He, in fact, plays a very gallant part, a very brave part. His master is wounded and on the ground. He does not abandon him. Rather, he stands above him and tries to prevent anyone from harming him. Assail is to harm. So, no blow or no dart from the enemy soldier was allowed to reach the master and injure him further. And now the elephant starts trumpeting loudly, a very fierce and fearful sound. And with that, he holds the enemy at bay. At bay means he does not allow them to approach ahead. So any soldier moving ahead as seen in the picture, be it with an arrow or a spear or a sword, was alarmed, was taken aback by the trumpeting sound of the elephant. It was almost as if the elephant was challenging them to approach nearer to their prey. Their prey at this point of time means King Porus, almost daring them to injure his wounded lord. Let's look at the words lest ere the least. Lest means to prevent. Ere is the short form for ever. So here we have the elephant standing guard over his master so that the least harm may befall him from enemy blow or dart. Moving ahead, then at last with his mighty trunk lifted him tenderly on his head, bore him in unconscious faintness sunk, where he could rest without fear or dread. With the battle still raging on and Porus on the ground, the elephant now picks up his master with his mighty trunk, lifts him, puts him on his head, takes him to a sheltered corner, and places him over there. Although Porus is unconscious, he still has a place to rest in without fear of being harmed anymore from the enemy soldiers. And finally, the last stanza. Ah, these dumb things that but cry and pant, they too can love for God make them so. Porus was saved, but his elephant died from his wounds. Thus the legends go. So this is a legend that has been carried on from ages that in the process of saving his master Porus, it was the elephant who sacrificed his life because the darts that were meant for Porus, they were short of course, but they wounded grievously the elephant, and he did not make a big hue and cry about it. He did not was not able to express himself. but we get to know the message given by this poem is that these dumb beasts, they may not be able to express themselves, but when need arises, they are there to protect and take care of their masters. Such is the love of these animals. Are these dumb things that but cry and pant? Mary Dobson says that though animals can only cry and pant, that is, they can't express their feelings in words, but they too are capable of loving others, as has been rightly proved by the elephant that died of his wounds while saving his master King Porus's life. In the face of danger, the elephant displayed unusual courage, loyalty, presence of mind. He used his body both as a shield to protect Porus from the onslaught of the enemy, bore the brunt of the attack, and sacrificed his life for his master's safety. Indeed, a legend which has truly been preserved and rightly been preserved for times to come. The loyalty of animals towards their masters, although they cannot speak, putting their own lives in danger, sometimes even dying in the process, that is the message of this beautiful poem. I hope you've understood the poem. This is me, Surabhi Jamal, thanking you so much for listening in. Take care and have a good day. Bye bye.